Before I start this video, the game that you can see in the background is Crusader Kings 2. Basically, I felt like this was going to be a bit of a long, rambly video, so I thought that it would be better just me recording it as audio. I can pause and add and cut segments and so on as I go along, and then I'll just have some game footage in the background. So if you're not interested in the game, then you can just click off and listen to this a bit like a podcast. But if you do like the game, then you can just watch on screen as well while you listen. So it's a question that I've had time and time again now, and that is, what about lucid dreaming devices? What about these masks that you can put on that help you lucid dream? Are they any good? Should I buy one? Do they work whatsoever? Are they just a big scam? Well, in this video, I'm going to try and shed some light and give some answers to all of those questions. Now, before we get started on the video, I just want to give a huge shout out to Daniel Love and his recent video on the subject, where he talks about the potential scams involved with these devices and the Kickstarters surrounding them and so on. Now, I'm going to put a link to his video in the video description, so definitely go check that out and see what he has to say on the subject, because that was the video that inspired this one. So the first and perhaps most pertinent question on the subject that a lot of you guys have been asking me is, do lucid dreaming devices work? Plain and simple. Can you put one of these devices on at night and have a lucid dream as a result of it? Now, the short answer to that is sometimes. Sometimes some of these devices do work. Some of them are quite frankly terrible and basically just a waste of money, but other ones can actually work, and depending on the person, you know, it's a very individual thing. Some people get better results with them than others, so you might pick it up and you might find that you get decent enough results with it, or you might find that you get, you know, the occasional odd lucid dream, or you might find that it doesn't work for you. But the basic idea here is that yes, lucid dreaming devices absolutely can work, but there are a lot of variables involved in determining whether or not they actually will. So with that in mind, what should you look for if you are looking to get a lucid dreaming device? Well, the one thing that I suggest looking for in a lucid dreaming device is making sure that it at least has some form of REM detection. The point is, if your device just sends you a signal randomly at some point during the night, you can already accomplish that with things like your phone, with alarm clocks and so on already, so you don't really need to shell out to get a device to do that. So the way I see it, if your device doesn't have some form of REM detection and doesn't detect what stage of sleep you're in, then it's not really much of a lucid dreaming device, and I personally wouldn't invest in it. Now, the one exception to this would be if someone developed a lucid dreaming device that had nothing to do with trying to induce a lucid dream, but was more to do with, you know, helping develop other lucid dreaming habits, teaching you the different techniques and helping you to do reality checks and stuff like that. You know, for something like that, it doesn't really need REM detection. But when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the devices that are available right now, which are all about, you know, getting you lucid in your sleep. And for these, I think some form of REM detection, however crude, is kind of essential. The next thing that you should look at is the mechanism this device uses to function, and you should see if that looks like something that might work for you. Just as an example, there are several devices that use vibration to help induce a lucid dream. The idea is they detect when you're in REM, and then they give you a subtle little vibration to help remind you that you're actually in a dream and to get you to perform a reality check. Now, this could work for someone, but I know for me this would absolutely not work, because a subtle vibration will wake me up, because in fact that's what I tend to do with my alarm to wake me up. If I use an alarm, I just have it on silent and just a little vibration, and that is enough to wake me up. So if I bought a device that used a similar vibration, it wouldn't notify me that I'm dreaming, it would simply cause me to wake up, which kind of misses the point. There are other things like, you know, playing a certain sound or showing you a colour inside the mask or flashing lights and so on, and you're going to have to determine whether this is something that is likely to work for you. You can experiment yourself, you can try something out, you can get a friend to, you know, flash some lights at you in your sleep or something, or, you know, play around with putting your phone on vibrate next to you and see if that actually wakes you up or doesn't, and see what happens. But I mean, unless you've just got loads of money to blow on whatever and you don't really care if it works, then I would at least be fairly certain that the method that the device uses is going to have a good chance of working for you. If you know already that that method isn't going to work for you, then obviously don't buy the device. And on that note, should you buy a lucid dreaming device at all? Well, the way I see it, it really depends. If you have realistic expectations, you understand that This is kind of hit and miss. It might work for you, it might not, and it's not going to be a magic pill that works, you know, every single time. It's not going to have a massively high success rate. If you understand that and you look at the price and you think, hey, you know, this seems like a perfectly reasonable price to try out as a bit of an experiment and see if this helps me lucid dream, then go for it. Absolutely go for it. Probably be a bit of fun, whatever. On the other hand, you know, if you're expecting something that's going to, you know, make you suddenly start getting lucid all the time when you've never got lucid before, something that's going to be really, really highly effective, or the price seems a bit steep to you, then I would simply say just don't do it, because you're going to be quite disappointed, at least with what's available on the market right now. We don't have any sort of devices that can guarantee you lucid dreams. We don't have any sort of devices that work for absolutely everyone. And so you need to know what you're getting in for if you do want to buy one of these. And you basically need to have a bit of money to spare and be willing to take a bit of a risk with it if you do actually want to go down that route. Now, speaking of risks, there is also the matter of Kickstarters. So a lot of these devices, they will come out with their idea and then they will make a Kickstarter page to fundraise for it. And that's all well and good. You know, if you've got a great idea and you don't have the funds to create it, but you have it planned out and you want to make it happen, then starting a Kickstarter campaign is a great way to go about it. But I would advise a word of extreme caution when it comes to any Kickstarter project, and especially these kind of devices and so on. First of all, you want to look at who's making this. Is this someone that actually knows anything about lucid dreaming? Is it just some random company that you've never heard of? Do they exist? Do they have any working other products already? Or is this just someone that's never made anything before? You know, do they have business experience before? Are they likely to actually spend all this money they get and actually make the product and ship it out to everyone without any issues? Or are they an inexperienced first timer who is likely going to run into a lot of roadblocks along the way, which might mean potential issues for you as a person who's actually invested in it? And now let's say that you look at who's making it and you think, oh, you know, they seem reasonable. Well, you still have to be quite cautious. The next thing to look at, of course, is the product itself. What are they offering? First of all, do they have a prototype? Do they actually have something that is working and that is doing what they say it is doing and that has actually produced some results? If they do, that's a good start. That's, you know, the kind of product that you might want to back if you have the extra money to spare and you have other good reasons to do that. If it's just an idea and they haven't even made anything, or, you know, they haven't got a proper prototype ready yet, then you probably want to kind of back off at this point and wait for them to come up with something like that, because, you know, you don't have any idea if they know even how to make this thing or if they know how to make it work and so on. And on that note, you want to look at how the thing actually works. Is it different from anything that we have already? Why is it different? You know, what's special about this device that is going to make it work better than what we already have on the market? And if it's not better than what we already have on the market, why is it that you want to back it? You know, is it that this is super cheap? You know, they come up with this device and it's, you know, $10 and you can get the device for that. Then, okay, maybe you want to back it because it's cheap enough that you could try out one of these devices for yourself. But if they come out with this new device and it's, you know, $150 and it doesn't seem to be doing anything new, then why would you back this as of yet not produced device rather than just buying something that's already out there and exists? At least with the existing devices, even if a lot of them are unreliable and, you know, there's no guarantees that they'll work, at least you have some idea of what they do and that some of them work for some people some of the time. Whereas with the devices that aren't yet out, you have no idea. It might work never for, you know, anyone. It might not work whatsoever. It might never even ship out. And speaking of never shipping out, we of course have to talk about Kickstarter projects that fail and scams. Because the thing is, on Kickstarter, there are two very easy ways that you can lose your money. Now, the first of these is a very well-intentioned, well-meaning person has come up with this product idea, you know, they've tried to make it work, but they've just completely miscalculated everything, and, you know, maybe it's their first time doing a Kickstarter and they've underestimated how much money they'll need and so on. And they go through the production cycle and something just goes wrong and they're left in a situation where they can't afford to produce all of the devices, and so you basically never end up getting the thing that you paid for. And this is a lot more common than you might think. If you've never backed a Kickstarter project before, you should know that this happens a lot of the time, and even often with bigger companies that might have done this before. Mistakes can be made, problems can arise, and there is a very good chance with any project that you back on Kickstarter that you will never actually see the thing that you paid for. So you have to know there's always a risk, always a bit of a gamble when you're backing something that isn't yet out. Now, the next major issue that can arise is, of course, the issue of scams. Now, it's hard to know for certain if someone is a scammer or not before you invest in something because of the fact that scammers can vary. You know, there are some scammers who put no effort into their pitch whatsoever, and they put out a Kickstarter project and you just look at it. You don't even really need to read much of it. You just look at that project and you know it's a scam. You just know instinctively because it's so badly put together that it couldn't possibly be real. On the other hand, you have some scammers who put hours and hours and hours into perfecting their pitch, making it seem like they have this amazing product that is going to work 100% of the time and deliver results unlike anything we've ever seen before. And it just seems so well put together that you feel like you have to part with your money. You have to give them a go because it seems just like anything from a legitimate company would seem. So this is again where I think you should look at the credentials of who's actually behind the project before you decide whether or not to back it. But with all of that in mind, when should you back one of these Kickstarter projects? Well, I think you should only back one of these Kickstarter projects if 1, you completely trust in the person that is making the project, 2, you've read through it and you think the product idea sounds completely viable, makes sense and will actually be effective, 3, you think the price is completely reasonable for what it offers and for the fact that you're going to have to wait a while to get it and for the fact that you might never get it at all, and 4, when you have completely accepted that risk, that gamble that you are taking and understand that you might receive nothing. So you are essentially giving your money to this person in good faith and hoping you get something back, which some of the time you will, some of the time you won't, some of the time you will and it'll work, some of the time you will and it won't work. So there's a lot of risk involved and you have to take that into account. Now, we've talked a little bit about lucid dreaming devices, some of the potential risks involved, and when you should or shouldn't buy one. But what about if you want to kind of achieve something similar at home? Now, one of the things about these devices is that they can often be quite crude in how they detect REM, for example, because, you know, they'll look at how you move during the night to try and detect what phase of sleep you're in. And that will give them information that suggests that you're in REM, and then they will, you know, flash the lights in your eyes or, you know, vibrate a wristband or whatever it is they want to do to try and notify you that you're in a dream, that you're in REM. And it is the crude nature of some of these functions that is why, you know, these devices aren't some magic pill that just result in you getting lucid every time. But it is also the crude nature of some of these devices that is why you can actually replicate some of their functions at home with stuff that you already have. You see, detecting REM through movement is something that you can probably already do with your smartphone. Not every smartphone is capable of it. I have a smartphone that is a little bit broken and so it doesn't really work very well when I use one of these apps. But for most people, your smartphone is probably capable of doing this. Just download a sleep tracking application. For Android, there's one called Sleep as Android. I'm not sure about iPhone, but if you just search for sleep tracking apps, I'm sure you'll find something. And basically what you want to do is run it for a few nights and track your sleep and see when you are in REM. And I believe some of these apps actually do have functions for setting up alarms to wake you in certain stages of sleep and allow you to pick. I seem to remember there was at least one that allowed you to have a message go off when you were in REM. I can't remember which app that was. It might have even been the Sleep as Android app, or it might be something else. But you should definitely look around for that. But if your app doesn't have that functionality, then it doesn't matter. All you want to do is track your sleep for a few days, maybe a week, and see when is a time period when you're almost always in REM, after how many hours of sleep. And that should tell you, okay, this is a good time to have an alarm wake me up to do a method like wake back to bed. Or this is a good time to have a, you know, sound play quietly telling me to perform a reality check. And then make use of that. So, for example, if you do just want to wake up and perform a technique, then set your alarms to wake you up after that many hours of sleep. Rather than just guessing and using a 6-hour alarm or a 4-hour 30 alarm, you can actually look at the charts and see, okay, this is possibly when I was in REM, and try out an alarm at that time and see if it works better for you. Another thing that you can do is you can set up an alarm of your own, a custom alarm, and basically what you want to do is record yourself very quietly saying something like, hey, you're dreaming now, do a reality check. Or remember to do a reality check. Or you are now dreaming. Or you are now lucid. Or whatever it is, some little reminder that you're in a lucid dream. And just have yourself repeat this phrase every few seconds and make it like a 3 or 4 minute recording. Or, you know, you could do it shorter if you like. But I like the idea of a longer one just because it gives you a better chance of hearing it. Because you kind of want your voice to be a little bit quiet so it doesn't startle you awake when you hear it. You kind of want it to be a bit soft and, you know, kind of whispery. Put that file on your phone or record it on your phone in the first place and then set it to be your alarm and set it to wake you up during one of those periods that the app said is REM. And now you basically have yourself a homemade lucid dreaming device that does a similar thing to what these lucid dreaming masks do. You also have the added advantage that you're not wearing a great big mask that might make it uncomfortable to sleep. Now, of course, for the people that something like a flashing light works really well for, something like a mask might work better than this. But my suggestion, before you go and shell out your hard-earned money for a lucid dreaming device, is try out something like this first. So, with all of that in mind, in conclusion, I basically just wanted to make this video because I get a lot of questions about these lucid dreaming devices, and I see a lot of people kind of being taken advantage of by them. You know, they're spending way more money than they should because they think this lucid dreaming device is a guaranteed way for them to get lucid, or they see this new Kickstarter and they think it's going to be the next best thing when it's really just a rehash of something that we already have. And I don't make this video to actually be negative towards the devices because I think the devices are a really cool idea. You know, I'm a bit of a kind of a nerd, a bit of a geek, and I like stuff like this. I love the idea of having a device that you can put on that can help you in the process. You know, I think humans use tools, and having an added tool to help you in the process is a great thing. And I think some of the lucid dreaming devices on the market seem interesting, and, you know, if they were a little bit more affordable, then I would probably invest in one just to try it out and experiment with it a bit. But you need to be realistic when you're buying one of these things. You need to understand it's not a magic pill. It's not going to make you get lucid every time. It might not work for you entirely. And if it's a product that's not yet out, i.e. a Kickstarter, you need to be aware that there's a risk of you never getting it at all or it not working whatsoever. And of course, at the end, I wanted to touch on what you can do at home with just your phone because of the fact that a lot of people have messaged me saying that they want a lucid dreaming device, and that they do understand that, you know, it's not a guaranteed thing, but they want one. But just like me, they feel that the prices for most of the working ones are a little bit steep. And so they wanted to achieve something similar for cheaper, and they wanted to know if there are any cheaper devices out there. So this is a cheaper device. If you already have a phone, then this is completely free. Just get your free app for tracking sleep, set up an alarm, and away you go. See if it works. And if you do want some extra help with lucid dreaming, then I really recommend checking out my lucid dreaming course. It is $20, so a lot cheaper than any of these lucid dreaming devices. And I think by learning the skills you need to lucid dream for yourself, you're going to have a much higher chance of getting lucid than any of these devices really offer. So of course, that would be my first suggestion to any of you who want to spend some money on getting better at lucid dreaming. Now, I am a little bit biased, of course, but rather than taking my word for it, what I suggest you do is you head on over to the top right hand corner and check out the link to the product there and read more about it and what it offers and see if it interests you. There should also be a link down in the description below. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and if you want more videos like this, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications by clicking the bell icon. If you want to support the channel and you want to get extra exclusive content that I only post over on Patreon, then be sure to check out my Patreon page. And if you want to keep watching, pick one of the videos on screen.